Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time here, well then welcome. I really hope you stick around. I usually try to make every video better than the last. Sometimes I fail miserably at that, and then every once in a while I really pull a good one out. Anyways, I really do hope you stick around. So today's video is going to be about how I maintain my body weight. And I've gotten a lot of video requests on that topic. And so I decided, you know what, I really need to sit down and I really need to gather all of my thoughts and put this video together, because it's funny how when somebody says like, hey, how do you stay so thin? Or, you know, what do you typically eat and stuff? I always draw a blank. I'm like, I don't know. I'm not really sure how I do that, but it's just because I've been eating this way for my entire adult life. So I really don't put any thought into it anymore. It's just something that it's just a lifestyle, you know. But I'm sure you noticed in the title that it's called Intermittent Fasting, and it's the 16-8 method. And quite honestly, I didn't even know there was a label to it. I was actually just researching some stuff just a few weeks ago, actually just a few months ago, not a few weeks ago. And I was just trying to see if anybody out there kind of ate similarly to me, because, you know, just wanted to make sure that, you know, what I've been doing all this time was actually healthy for me. And it was amazing to me whenever I stumbled across intermittent fasting, because as I was reading the articles and stuff, I just thought, I had all these like aha moments, you know. I was like, oh my God, like this is exactly why I eat the way that I do. This is exactly the way that it makes me feel. I mean, I just felt like suddenly so like understood or something, you know, like you get me, you know. But it was just really good. So anyways, I'm gonna do my best to try to explain it all to you. I'm not sure that I would consider it a diet, because it's more of a pattern, you know, of eating. This video is actually going to be more about like how and when I eat, and then my next video is going to be about like the type of foods that I eat. I have to break it up because otherwise this video is just going to be way too long. But this is a very important part of it. Okay, so before I get started, I really wanted to preface this with a few things, because whenever I decided that I was going to make this video, I really had a lot of hesitations about it and a lot of reservations, because I feel like anytime you're talking about food or diet or, you know, eating habits and stuff, those topics can be really sensitive. And so I just really want to be careful. I don't think I'm going to offend anybody. I can't imagine how it could offend anybody, because I'm just telling you about the eating patterns that I've been doing for the last 20 years. I'm not trying to suggest that anybody else do this. I'm not, you know, trying to push anybody into eating the same way I do. I'm just letting you know because people have asked, you know, how I've maintained, you know, my body weight. And just so you know, because I know a lot of people are going to have this question, I'm 5'3.5". Some people say I'm 5'4", but I've measured myself and I'm pretty sure I'm 5'3.5". And I weigh 110 pounds. I've always weighed 110 pounds for as long, for my entire adult life. You know, every once in a while I might drop a couple pounds underneath, or I never really gain weight unless I go on a mission to gain weight. And literally, like if you know me really well, at least twice a year, I go on a mission. I make a very concentrated effort to put on weight. And I usually want to put on maybe like 5 pounds. I just kind of want to see what it looks like, and, you know, see if it like fills out my face or makes me look younger, or I don't know, you know, I just don't want to, I don't want to be too thin, you know. So anyways, I do that, and then I always end up going back to my old ways. But anyways, that is one of the reasons why I've had reservations. The other one is because I feel like anytime you're talking about food and eating and diet, you know, everything that revolves around food, I feel like you really have to be responsible about it, because you never know who's watching. And I do not want to lead anyone down the wrong path, particularly anybody with any sort of like underlying eating disorder, because obviously, I am not a nutritionist. I am not a dietitian. These are just the choices that I've made in my life. But I think, you know, if you're somebody who's ever suffered from any type of eating disorder, the internet and YouTube is not the place to seek, you know, nutrition and dietary advice, especially because there are underlying concerns to address first. So I do definitely want to put that out there, because not to say that my eating habits, or anybody else who's ever made a video about their eating habits, not to say that they're unhealthy habits, but for somebody with an underlying eating disorder, they possibly could be. So I just don't know. And so, like I said, I definitely want to put that disclaimer out there that I'm in no way trying to suggest that you eat like me, nor am I saying that it's the best way to eat. It is just something that has worked out for me. Now, the reason I've chosen to eat this way is because I feel like I feel my best whenever I eat this way. Of course, you know, there's definitely an aesthetic component to it. I like the way that I look best when I eat this way, but also I feel like I just have so much more energy and I'm just never hungry. I'm never sitting around going, oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. You know, what am I gonna eat next? Because to me, that is such an uncomfortable feeling. It's almost, I don't know, the best way to describe it is like claustrophobic. It just, you know, stirs up anxiety and stuff. I do not like feeling that way about food. I feel like now I've got such a great relationship with food. And so let me go ahead and tell you about it. Okay, so intermittent fasting, the 16-8 method, because there's a few other methods out there, but I obviously don't fall under those categories, so I didn't research them or anything like that. But anyways, the one that I fall under is the 16-8 method. And basically what it is that you have 8 hours of feeding makes it sound like you're an animal or something, but you have about an 8-hour window where, you know, you can eat and you digest and absorb and process your food. And then there is a 16-hour fasting period. And I know that sounds crazy right off the bat because you're like, oh my gosh, who can fast for 16 hours a day? But once I explain it to you, you're gonna realize that it's really pretty simple. Not only is it simple, but there's actually physiological and scientific explanations for why it's a healthy practice and why it's really good at keeping energy levels up, weight off, and why you're able to maintain muscle tone, which is mild to moderate exercise. And those are all pluses for me. Those are all pros for me. So there's really nothing about this eating style that I don't like. Obviously, I've been doing it, I would say probably for about 15, a little bit more than 15 years, because I think I started eating like this when I was in my early 20s, because I was just listening to my body. So, okay, so the way that intermittent fasting is explained is that whenever you start to eat food, the moment you put food in your mouth, your body goes into the digestion phase. And that's when it kind of processes and absorbs, you know, all the food that you're putting in your body. Now, during that digestion phase, which usually lasts about 2 to 5 hours, there is very little fat burning going on because your insulin levels are high and your body is using all its energy to digest the food that you're eating at the moment. Believe it or not, your body requires a lot of energy to digest food. Now, usually after 2 to 5 hours, which is the digestion phase, and the reason it takes 2 to 5 hours, there's like that 3-hour gap, is because it takes your body more time to process certain foods than other. Your body typically digests and metabolizes carbs a lot quicker than it does meats and proteins. And then of course, you know, it doesn't take a lot of digestion whenever you're just drinking liquids. But so that's, you know, the reason it's a 2 to 5 hour phase. Now, because it takes 2 to 5 hours for your body to digest the food, typically after that 2 to 5 hours is up, you're pretty much hungry again, and then you start that eating process all over. So again, your insulin levels are high, you're not burning any fat, and your body's using all the energy it has to digest your food, which to me just explained a lot. And I'll tell you why in a minute. So after 2 to 5 hours has passed and your body is no longer digesting food, then the insulin levels start to drop, but they drop really, really gradually. After 12 hours of eating your last meal, so let's say you eat your meal and you complete eating your meal at 8 o'clock, because that's typically when we eat around here. We have our last meal around 7 o'clock and we're done by 8. Then it's not until 12 hours later that your body just goes into a fat burning mode. It just becomes this fat burning machine, and it finally has access to all the stored fat, so it really starts burning that stored fat. But that doesn't happen until 12 hours after you've eaten your last meal. So if you ate and completed your last meal at 8 o'clock, it's 8 o'clock the next morning that your body starts turning into a fat burning machine. And you know, I know that seems hard. That's 12 hours. That's 12 hours of fasting. So we still have 4 more to go. But I know that seems hard, but if you think about it, you know, after you've eaten your last meal, you're pretty full, you know, and most people don't eat after their last meal. I know I don't. It's just always kind of been a rule of thumb. I remember one time whenever I was really young, somebody said, if you eat after 8, you're going to gain weight. And that has always just kind of stuck with me. I just kind of burned it to memory. And so I just never, ever eat past 8. What am I saying? I hate when I say something so definitive like that. I don't typically eat past 8. Occasionally I will, you know, especially like on Friday nights, you know, because we order out, or we order, you know, we order from a local restaurant and stuff. So, you know, on Fridays I will sometimes eat past 8 o'clock, but typically I don't ever eat past 8 o'clock. So anyways, if you're So if you complete your last meal at 8 o'clock, usually, you're trying to wind down for bed. You're usually full until you go to bed, and then you sleep for 6, 7, 8 hours. So that whole 12 hours is usually spent just being full and then sleeping. So when you wake up in the morning, that's, like I said, when your body goes into fat burning mode. If you feed yourself immediately, right when you wake up in the morning, that's not going to happen because your body, once again, is going to have to use that energy to burn the food that you're eating, and insulin levels are going to be high and all that other good stuff that I told you. So in my case, I don't have my first meal until about 12 o'clock. At 12 o'clock, I'm not even hungry for my first meal. I usually, every morning, I don't get up and then start to think right away, like, what am I going to eat? I look forward to my coffee. I have a tumbler of iced coffee every single morning. It's a tumbler, it sounds so big, but it's, full of ice. But I have that every single morning, and that usually lasts for a couple hours. I have so much energy in the mornings. Right when I wake up, I'm just not like this ball of energy. But, after I've had my coffee, I have all this energy. I'm in no rush to eat. I just don't have that hunger. One thing that I do, one of the reasons that I really started this a long time ago without even knowing I was starting anything, is because I started to notice that whenever I would eat breakfast, we've always been taught that your biggest meal of the day is supposed to be breakfast. And it's going to give you all this energy and, to just really start and tackle your day. And for me, it was always the complete opposite. It does not matter what I ate, whether it was egg whites and toast, whether it was a bowl of cereal, a protein shake, I don't care what it was. Immediately, I felt like my energy levels were depleted and I just kind of wanted to crawl back into bed. And I hated that feeling. Not only that, it almost like triggered my hunger for the rest of the day. So it's almost like after I ate breakfast, all I could think about was like, what am I going to eat next? What am I going to have for lunch? And I felt like I had to put way too much thought into what I was eating because I was always wanting to eat. Now that I don't eat breakfast, and this is, like I said, this is kind of why I hesitated to make this video, is because I have not been a breakfast eater for probably 20 years. I have just never, once I realized that it took my energy away immediately, apparently energy is something that I do not want to lose. It's definitely, now that I'm older, it's something that I do not want to lose. So once I realized that my breakfast was stripping me of my energy, I just stopped eating it. And it was amazing to me how after I stopped eating breakfast, I was just no longer like ravished all day long. Is that the right word? Ravished? So anyways, I typically eat my first meal at around noon. Like I said, most of the time, I'm not even hungry. I'm not even ready to have my first meal. I actually eat it because I don't want to wither away, because I know it's healthy for me and I want to, fuel my body with food, obviously. But I do notice right after I eat even that, my first meal, that, my energy levels come down. And I still do love breakfast foods, so I'll still have like breakfast foods for lunch sometimes. But anyways, so that's usually when I eat my first meal. Now, typically for lunch, I usually eat something kind of light. I usually eat, I showed you those lettuce wraps, I have the garbanzo beans, stuff like that. I'm going to show you a lot of the things that I reach for lunch and dinner and snacks and stuff like that in my next video. But that's when I have my lunch. It's usually a light lunch. Sometimes it's a little bit more heavy. But when I have my biggest meals is at dinner. At dinner time, I have my absolute biggest meals. And, one of the things, like I said, with this, I don't want to call it a diet because a lot of articles don't even refer to it as a diet because it's more of kind of a lifestyle. It's more about when and how you eat than it is what you eat. Not to say that in that 8-hour period when, you are allowed, when you have that 8-hour window to eat, not to say that you should be binge eating on a bunch of, fast food and junk food, because obviously that's not going to be good for you at all. It's not going to fuel you. It's not going to be good for your arteries, not for your heart, not for your cholesterol, not for anything. So you shouldn't be ever binge, eating on junk food all the time. I think it's okay to make allowances from time to time. But like I said, it's more about when and how you eat than it is what you eat. So at dinner time, I always have a big meal. That's when I have my biggest meals. Now, still, I'm very particular about what goes in my mouth. Not always, but I definitely stay away from things that are super, super rich and creamy. I do not eat fried foods. It's a rare occasion that I eat fried foods. I've never even fried anything myself. I don't know how to fry anything. If my family has had fried foods, it's because it was pre-fried and I put like stick it in the oven or something like that. Or if we order out, you know. So I rarely have fried foods. I don't put a lot of butter, you know, in my foods. I'm not gonna sit there and grow, you know, not that I have a garden, but if I did have a garden and I grew green beans, I feel like what's the point of growing the green beans if you're gonna pull them inside and soak them in a stick of butter and pour a ton of salt all over them? You know what I mean? You're defeating the whole purpose of having grown some wonderful whole food from, you know, in your backyard. So anyways, when I eat my dinners, it's really big, but I'm not as strict with myself at dinner time as I am kind of at lunchtime. But at dinner time, I do make allowances, and I do, you know, I might have some tater tots, or I might have, you know, a little bit of bread and butter along with my giant bowl of spaghetti, or, you know, not that that's all I ever make, spaghetti. So that's how I eat. And then I don't eat anything past 8. I go to sleep. I wake up. I'm not hungry. I look forward to my coffee. I drink my coffee. Noon is when I have my first meal. So there's that 4 hours that my body is just in a natural fat burning mode. And to be honest with you, like I said, once I read all the literature and stuff that's available online, I just thought, no wonder, you know, no wonder I have never ever struggled with my weight. No wonder I'm not sitting around always so hungry. I've said in another video before that, you know, food is not a priority to me. And it's not that it's not a priority, it's just that I'm not constantly hungry. And to me, that is something that I'm so glad that I have to deal with. Let me give you an example of this. You know, I said earlier that there are times where I will purposely try to put on weight, and it's like 2 times a year. Probably for the last like 10 years I do this. My husband's like, here we go again. But anyways, when I do that, I do add breakfast back in to my routine. And like I said, what happens is I don't feel my best. You know, I end up getting tired right after breakfast. It initiates a hunger, which I'm kind of glad, because otherwise I would just be forcing myself to eat because I'm trying to actively put on some weight. But I've noticed it usually lasts about a month. I think usually I get up to about 114 or something like that. And it's not that I don't, you know, I'm not crazy about the way I feel, like physically, like the way my clothes fit and the way that I feel. I don't like the way that I feel. I'm just not used to it, you know. But then, but also on top of it, I don't like the way that I feel as far as my energy levels are. And it's like after about a month of doing that, I always end up just going back to my old ways and skipping breakfast and then having my first meal at noon. And literally the weight just drops off. I'm always 110. It's very, very rare that I'm below it or above it. Usually it's like right on the dot. I don't know, it's kind of funny. And usually it kind of takes a couple days to get back into the habit of not eating breakfast, because you form habits, you know, if you're doing things day after day and week after week and month after month. So like I said, usually it's only about a month. So it only takes me maybe a day or two to get back to my old eating habits. And then I'm just back to normal, and I feel better. I feel like I look better, and I've just got so much more energy. On top of it, there are actually like documented health benefits to fasting, just fasting in general. Not only does it help to control your weight and keep energy levels high, but it's also supposed to be healthy for both your body and your mind, which I find very interesting. You know, there were a few things that I do remember reading about fasting. They say that whenever you're fasting, your human growth hormone just skyrockets, like almost 5-fold. And that's really good for both fat loss and, you know, muscle gain if you're actively trying to work out and gain muscle. Another thing is, and you know, you've always heard that too before, right? That if you work out on an empty stomach, you're going to burn more fat and burn more calories, obviously, because your body's not busy digesting. I cannot say that word. Your body's not busy digesting food. So another thing that I remember reading is that whenever you're fasting, insulin sensitivity really improves, and levels of insulin really drop dramatically. And when you have, you know, dropped insulin levels, then stored body fat is more accessible, you know, to burn. So another wonderful, great thing. Another thing that I remember was something about cellular repair whenever you're fasting, and something about gene expression. But I don't know enough about either one of those. I didn't read enough about either one of those to talk to you about it with any level of confidence, you know, because I just did not educate myself enough on those subjects. But I do want you to know that I'm going to be putting a lot of information in my description box below. I'm going to be putting a bunch of the articles that I read and just a lot of the information that I shared in this video. I'm just going to go ahead and put it in my description box too, just in case you want to come back and you don't feel like, you know, watching the video. So that is the end of this video. I hope that answered a lot of questions. Like I said, my next video is going to be about all of the foods that I typically reach for. I've got a lot of really good snack ideas, and maybe I'll break that one up into snacks, lunch ideas, and dinner ideas. I just don't want to make a video super, super, super long. Not just that, I have to prepare everything so I can show you. Maybe I could just show you some pictures or something. But anyways, okay, so that is the end of this video. If you liked it, don't forget to hit that like button. I would really appreciate that. And there is a subscribe button below me. It's red. If you're on a mobile device, it's right there somewhere. Go ahead and hit that too on your way out. So anyways, thank you for joining, and thank you for joining. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you at my next video. Have a wonderful evening. It's Friday, so of course this house, it's like Mother's Day every Friday. I'm just joking. It kind of feels like it because I have wine on Fridays, and you know, we order in every Friday, so that's always nice for me. I don't have to cook. Usually I might have like a phone happy hour with a friend of mine or something, you know. So anyways, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.